This year, the discussion on budget 2022 is going to be really special. Why? Because this time we are going to have industry experts who are going to share their views on our YouTube channel. But who are they? I'm sure you might be like, what? 2 hours video? Yes, it is a 2 hours video. But if you want my honest opinion and my honest feedback, this video is going to give you a lot of insights, not only about budget 2022, it will help you to understand a variety of sectors like FMCG, Realty, IT, media, mutual funds, and few other points which are related to the budget, because it's not me who is talking alone about all these sectors, but we have industry experts who have not only 10, 15, 20 years, but some people having more than 30 years of experience in a specific industry, in a specific sector, who have been kind enough to spare their valuable time and come on our channel to discuss their views on budget and on specific sectors. In fact, every speaker at their end of the interview, they have given one guru mantra for investors like you and me. And I think this is going to be a lecture which is going to be packed with not only knowledge, but a lot of experience which these industry experts, which they bring on the table. So I request everyone that even if you watch at 2x, you're going to require at least 1 hour to watch this video. So have that time with you and then and only then watch this video. Or possibility number 2, if you feel that, okay, I need the views only of a specific person or of a specific sector, I have written the timestamps in the description box so that it will be easy for you to navigate through the various sections of the video. So with that, let's get started, and I hope you enjoy this entire video. All right, so here we are with our next esteemed guest, born in Pakistan, but who then traveled to multiple places in India, and then even few places outside India, including South Africa, USA, where she completed her MBA from Wharton Business School, who eventually came back to India to start her own business. And she started managing a fund of roughly around 25 lakhs, but eventually she grew it to 200 crore rupees and then sold to Edelweiss. Today, she is the MD and CEO of Edelweiss, when she manages an AUM of more than 80,000 crore rupees. Oh my God, that is an amazing I was feeling so nice to talk about all these things. Thanks a lot, Radhika ma'am, to join on our show. Thanks for taking out time from your busy schedule.
Thanks so much for having me. And I must say you've been doing amazing work. I've seen some of your stuff. So great work that you guys have been doing.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. So let's jump into the questions related to the budget. We did hear about our finance minister talk about the LIC IPO, which is she didn't mention the date though, but she said that it is about to come shortly. She also has a lot of plans for disinvestment. So I can for a layman, I can say that whenever government is wanting to do some disinvestment, it's like a supply side from the government, wherein they are selling some stake and they're trying to raise funds, right? But then there has to be a demand side wherein these shares will be absorbed, these will be invested into, and the money will be given to the government. So looking at the current mutual fund industry right now, do you believe that we have our DIIs have that power to absorb this inflow coming in from the center?
So I think 2 points I'd make there. One is actually, if you look at the disinvestment targets to FMA announced here, that's actually less than previous years. It's 65,000 odd crores. It's less than previous years. Yeah. So is it an extraordinarily high number? I don't think it's an extraordinarily high number. And on a separate note, it's fine that it isn't, because it's important that you meet the number.
True.
As far as absorption is concerned, I think the market has absorbed those kind of numbers before. Remember, mutual funds are not the only ones absorbing it. Yeah. There are foreign institutional investors. I think in the case of marquee companies like LIC and many others, if the companies are underlying good companies and good assets, I think there is value creation and wealth creation, and there will be demand. There is the public who doesn't, of course, invest via mutual funds that comes in. There are insurance companies. So I don't think there's a shortage of people willing to have demand for good companies. Even if you've seen the IPO markets last year, in many of the big new age listings, I mean, you've seen demand that is many fold the kind. And you've seen a lot of new investors, including new global investors, come in. So I think for a good company, for a good asset, there is more than enough demand. In fact, there's too much demand for a good asset.
Yeah. You also talked about the fact that this year's disinvestment number is not that big. I mean, it's not bigger than the previous one. But while I was reading through, I found that the disinvestment target that the government had laid down versus the actual figure that they have met, there's a big parity here, right? So as a layman, if I were to understand that, what stops the government from meeting their divestment or disinvestment targets? How do you put that for a layman?
Okay, so firstly, hopefully with LIC, I hope this target is closer to met this year. I think, and I've had the fortune of working with various parts of government, at least during my time in Bharat Fund. Disinvestment is a common process. As a layman, it's very easy to say, chalo, let's pick XYZ and disinvest it. It takes time. Ultimately, it's an asset that government wants, and you have to find the right buyer. If you are going to sell an asset that you own, you will take time to sell it. You will take time to put out bids. You will take time to find the right buyer. You will take time to find market conditions. That said, of course, there are more than one instance where we have not met our disinvestment target. And that's why I said I don't worry about the fact that the target is lower next year. I think it's important to set a target that you can meet.
Absolutely. Moving on to our next question, that, being heading a mutual fund house, every person who is wanting to invest in a mutual fund always believe that my mutual fund should give me a good alpha. So let us say, that's a very fancy word that everyone loves to use in their parlance. But to put it up in simple words again, for those who are not aware about this, let's say the market is giving, let us say, 10% returns. And if your mutual fund gives 12% returns, it's as good as you have generated 2% alpha, right? Is for a common person. So as an expert in this field, what do you feel could be few key sectors based on our budget 2022, which can help the investors to generate their alpha?
Okay, I'll give you a slightly long-winded answer. Firstly, I think as a mutual fund house, of course, alpha is our primary job. So wo to aapki baat is absolutely correct. But we don't look at alpha over a short-term horizon. We look at alpha over a 5-year horizon. And I think that's one thing I would want viewers to keep thinking about, because in these market conditions, one thing I've noticed is time horizons have become so short and we've all become so impatient. So we look at companies and ideas and sectors that can give us alpha over a 5-year horizon. And that's why, while a budget is an important sentiment indicator, it's one data point in our 5-year journey. And so it can, accentuate what we are doing, but it can't be the sole driver of the decisions that we take. I think in terms of sectoral decisions, we run largely diversified funds. And our belief is that this year, last year was a very different year because we were coming off the lows of 2020. So there was a lot of sectoral activity that was going on. This year, we really think it's a lot more about stock selection. One theme, though, that said, to answer your question, that we are conducive on is the whole, and we saw this in the budget, is the whole manufacturing and make in India revival, the cyclical side of the economy. So we've been bullish on industrial companies, home building companies, cements, the China plus one category. You saw there was a big push in the budget for manufacturing, for PLI in certain sectors. So that's one of the themes that we are definitely optimistic about. A second is also financial, which was accentuated in the budget, but has been something that we're bullish on. So this whole investment side of the economy is something that we are bullish on. But that
the final sentence, I guess, if you can repeat, maybe there was a small audio error.
So there might have been. So I think we're bullish on the investment side of the economy. But that said, I would just re-emphasize that we do run diversified funds, because I think ultimately the budget shapes India. And if India grows, then it lifts a lot of sectors with it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Based on yesterday's budget, of course, you did focus on certain sectors. But if I were to ask you one key takeaway from the budget, of course, a lot of things were touched upon, including some nice points wherein our finance minister focused more on upskilling, reskilling. As you rightly mentioned, China plus one model. We talked a lot about clean energy, green energy. We talked about battery as a service. Then how entire EV sector, the green issuance of green bonds, so many new points were discussed during this budget. So as I mean, that one point, as I mentioned, that wow factor that you got from the budget, what could that one point be?
So actually, mine was a little different. It was the whole idea of India at 100. She started with this whole thing of India at 100. And Rachana, I think you and I represent a younger generation of Indians. I think it's very heartening to see a budget speech that has a 25-year horizon,
Absolutely.
And in these times when our horizon is not even 25 seconds for a YouTube ad, and you know this better than I do, for a budget to talk about a vision for India that is 25, I think I found that personally very heartening. And I feel very optimistic about, India can be very chaotic on a day-on-day basis, but I feel very optimistic about the world 25 years out. I feel that the themes I hear are growth. The themes I hear are young India. The themes I hear are skilling. The themes I hear are digitization, social responsibility towards the climate. There was a beautiful line, and this has nothing to do with finance, but there was a beautiful call out to mental health, which is a fact that's very close.
Absolutely.
So it looks like a newer, bolder, younger, agile India that hopefully will be a leader in certain sectors, not just software exports, but we've seen even what we can do with things like mobile phones, pharmacy to the rest of the world that will be meaningful on the world stage. So for me, the single takeaway was growth and the idea of India at 100.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, I have I can't say that I've been following budgets for like 20 years, 25 years, barely 10 years I've been following the budgets. But whatever limited exposure I have had to budgets, I don't recall any finance minister talking about a 25-year vision because, maybe सरकार को ही पता ही नहीं कि आगे के 5 साल हम रहेंगे भी या नहीं. So that might be the reason why no one talked about such a long horizon. But you very rightly pointed out that she has set a very nice standard by stating that this is how we believe India should be 25 years from now. With all these things in place in the budget, I think we all seem to be so optimistic about this entire decade. What do you think can fill in optimism in the FIIs who have been net sellers for last 2-3 months? I mean, they are just not stopping. What could bring them back? What could make them the net buyers in the coming few months if they have some takeaway from the budget?
I think there's one thing. So two things I'd say. One is I don't over stress about FIIs. We get very emotional in India about FIIs coming in and going out. I think they have different compulsions. It's a rising rate environment in the world. People are lightening up on emerging markets exposure. And often when they take action, it's not just India, it's a lot of other emerging markets. And the beautiful thing is, courtesy the work people like I am doing and people like you are doing, I think we now have a very strong domestic Indian investor base. So over the last 4-5 years, when we talk about the FII, our humble little systematic investment plans have added more to the economy in terms of capital flow. So I don't stress so much about the FII, not to say that they're not important. I think the one good thing from an FII point of view in this budget, which I've been critical of in past ones, is there was no change in tax regime. I think one thing India needs is, and much as people say personal tax change newer, I think one thing India needs is a stable, consistent tax regime. You can't have changes every year where you spend half the year just interpreting and reacting to the laws.
Absolutely.
So I think FII should see a picture of growth, a government that is oriented towards growth, towards spending, reasonably fiscally prudent, and an environment that is stable.
Absolutely. Wow, that was very crisp and well put. Because like you very well said. Otherwise, there are so many people who have that gung-ho about, oh my God, FIIs are selling this, that. But I think this time in the entire last 2-3 months, even if in spite of FIIs being such huge amount of net sellers, I think DIIs and RIIs for that matter have pulled off very well. And I think that that also shows the amount of money we Indians have that is being now channelized into the capital markets rather than, a typical FD/RD sort of investment avenue. So I think with this, the entire mutual fund industry as a whole is also set to grow at a very nice CAGR, is what I believe.
I hope so. I think I'm very optimistic about the business that I'm in.
Absolutely. So I think all in all, whatever comments I wanted from your side for the budget, I have very well received them. I think you were one of the most crisp to the point speakers that I had till the entire session that I've taken, almost the 7th interview that I am in right now. And for me, it was such a difficult thing. Otherwise, I'm always on the other side of the table. And for the first time in my life, I'm interviewing, and that too 7 straight in a row. So,
oh God, I don't envy you, but I'm glad we could do this quickly.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Ma'am, just one last word of wisdom that you would want to give to our new investors, especially because like you said, we are in a world where our attention span is like 25 seconds for the YouTube ad. We are in a world where we live in an instant gratification kind of thing, right? I put a photograph on FB or on Insta. I want to see how many likes I got, what comments I got. Similarly, people use that same parameter in investments in stock market as well. They feel that the moment I put money there, I put my money in mutual funds, instant gratification hona chahiye. So what guru mantra would you want to give to our investors who have recently joined this market during the pandemic?
I think you gave me a good cue for it. And, in all this optimism, I just want to say a few things. I think it's important to have a very balanced head on your shoulders. If you've joined the markets in the last 12, 18 months, you've probably seen fantastic returns. Do keep your expectations moderate, because the last 1.5 years is an exception. It's not, the stock market doesn't, it gives you 15% on average, but there are plus 30s and minus 30s. And the reality is you have to stick around in the minus 30 to experience the plus 30, and there will be years of zero. So don't lose your patience. Stay calm, know that in the long term, keep your eye on that India at 100 as a young person, and know that is there, but that India at 100 is not going to happen without chaos. It doesn't happen in the country, and it's not going to happen in markets.
Absolutely. Wow. So I think patience is the key, is what she's saying. And that was very well put, that if you have not been through the minus 30s, you cannot enjoy the plus 30s. I started my career in 2006, investing basically. And you can imagine 2008 was minus 40. So
I started my first investment in 2007. So same thing.
So we both have been through that minus 40s. Right? So thanks a lot, ma'am, once again for joining. Glad you took out time of your busy schedule to enlighten our viewers. Thanks a lot once again.
Thanks so much.
All right, so our next guest for today's session actually needs no introduction, but still I'm going to tell about some points which even I came to know about her when I started to, try to search her over the internet as well, that she is born in Pune and she's a fellow Punekar. So after I complete my introduction, I'm going to make sure that she speaks at least 1 or 2 sentences in Marathi, right? And she has been born and brought up in Pune, graduated in finance and economics from Narsi Munji College of Commerce in Mumbai. And she started her career as an account specialist in Thomson Reuters in 2007, and then joined CNBC TV 18 as a TV anchor way back in 2008. And by the way, that is the same year when even I started my career. Maybe all those great people maybe start career in 2008 only. Right? And she's currently serving as a senior editor of CNBC TV 18, and she has also won several accolades, including the Young Professional of the Year for Editorial Excellence Award in 2014. So welcoming everyone's favorite news anchor, Sonia. A warm welcome to our channel. How are you, Sonia?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rachana, for having me on your show. It's an absolute pleasure. I've learned so much from you ever since you started your career. And, I just want to say one thing, that don't believe everything you read on the internet, because I was born in Pune. I was born in Mumbai.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I was born in Mumbai, and but yes, I did my college at Narsi Munji, and I started in 2008. And it's an interesting anecdote, because since we talked about this earlier, my first day at CNBC was the day when Lehman Brothers collapsed.
Absolutely.
And the biggest learning experience for me on day one of my job.
True.
So yes,
amazing. So like you said that, 2008 was the year, the very first day of your career was the Lehman Brothers crisis. There are many people who always believe that, Arey yaar, I am starting my career when the pandemic is at its peak. Now what will happen? So I think we have been through this, that we started our career in the toughest year. And it's about just, in accounting, we call that as a timing difference. It's not a permanent difference which is going to happen. So it's all about how you shape up your career and, move forward with all those hurdles which are coming across and just move ahead with it.
Absolutely. And you know what? I just want to tell all of those people that in hindsight, if I had, rather than panicking at that time that, oh my God, I'm starting my career when Lehman has collapsed, will I lose my job? Do I have my job? If I just invested my salary at that time in the stock market, today I would not have to work anymore, So don't be fearful when the market is fearful. Be greedy, in fact. And just one anecdote, I remember when I joined CNBC, I was tracking the auto sector that time.
Mm-hmm.
And the price of Bajaj Auto stock was
Mm-hmm.
100 when I started tracking it.
Ooh, okay.
So at that 100 rupee price, I mean, we all talk about the here and the now, kya hoga, the demand will fall, this, that, prices are high. But you just have to know that India is growing at such a rapid pace that 10 years from now, these stocks will, some of the large cap stocks will continue to be multi-baggers and you won't even realize it.
Absolutely. So amazing. With that said, I think let us get started with all these questions that I have for you for the budget. But before that, one just base question for you, Sonia, that you have interviewed so many people, so many successful businessmen, industrialists, investors over, I guess, the last 13, 14 years. How does it feel to be interviewed this time?
So it's interesting that the last 1 year, I have been on the other side. So now people have started sort of interviewing me and asking me for my views. So it's good because I collected my views and I learned so much. And Rachana, I'm telling you, as a journalist, we are the epicenter of knowledge because we don't have one source.
True.
We speak to 10 people every day. And we get views from everyone, from the lowest echelons of the society to the uppermost. So our view is so balanced. Of course, we are still journalists. I'm still a journalist. So I'm not any expert or anything, but my view is very studied, very research oriented, factual and balanced. So that I think, works very well for us.
Amazing. So yesterday's budget, I think, was focusing on so many important points. And like I also talked about the same point with some other experts as well, that, our finance minister talking about all these new age technology words like drones, blockchain, digital assets. I mean, that was such a pleasure to hear all these words from her. But with all the different focus points, I think, and one very important point, which I believe yesterday's speech was about the capex focus that was given by the government, right? But what do you feel as an analyst? What was that one key takeaway from the budget, which you believe can not only have a short-term impact, but can have a ripple effect for, let us say, a decade to come?
Okay, so there are two things, right? One, I think this taxation on digital assets is a big game changer.
Absolutely.
Now, there are a couple of reasons for it. One is that you are from from the possibility of cryptocurrencies standing illegal, perhaps a year ago. Now you're bringing it under the tax bracket, which means not only is the government recognizing digital assets, the government is saying, I'm going to earn revenue from it.
True.
So that is a game changer. Of course, having said that, see, cryptocurrencies are very volatile, as we know. NFTs, there's very little data available on it.
Absolutely.
Volatility plus the 30% tax may not make it a feasible option for investment at the moment. But in the long term, if the government is going to generate revenue from something, then, I think a lot of institutional money may end up coming into the crypto market in India. This is my view. I may be wrong. And of course, there are a lot of legalities that need to be worked out. But that was one of the biggest takeaways. The big thing which I really liked is this infrastructure capex. Not only has it up by 35%, it's covering a lot of the key sectors, so whether it is railways, airways, ports, waterways, logistic infra development, the government has increased the budgeted capex across the board. Now I feel that the key sectors, because I track equities very closely, the key sectors that could benefit from this are the cement stocks, not just the infrastructure companies, the metal stocks, the capital companies. Because if the government is going to invest in roads, airways, ports, etc., then cement is going to be needed, more metal is going to be needed.
Absolutely.
More funding that's going to come through. So the banks are going to benefit in a big way. So then across the ecosystem, improvement that the government is looking at, and it will also spur jobs quite a bit. So this, I think, these two things, the digital asset taxing, and by the way, the taxation on digital assets. Now what will happen? See, Rachana, the main reason people were investing in cryptos is because it was not taxed. So it's kind of a hedge against the normally taxed assets, right? But now that it comes under the tax bracket, it's not different from equities. So I feel cryptos actually have more volatility than equities. So maybe there could be more money flowing out of cryptos and into the equity markets just in the near.
Exactly. So like you said right now, because if you were to compare cryptos versus equity, if you're holding for a long term, you're going to be taxed at 10% versus digital asset being taxed at 30%. So a person who is into the higher tax slab, he or she might feel that, hey, instead of investing in crypto, might as well shift to equity. And because of the volatility, of course, we say that equity is volatile, but if I compare it with cryptos, like, it's way less volatile. So in fact, because cryptos has been brought into the 30% ambit, I believe that has automatically made equity investments a shade more lucrative.
Yes. And equities enjoyed this TINA factor. TINA is there is
no alternative. Right? Yeah.
Equities has enjoyed this TINA factor for last 10 years. Now suddenly cryptos came in, a lot of money moved there. Again, now cryptos will be taxed, so money will move into equity. So I think the best way to generate wealth, to beat inflation, because nothing was there for the salaried class. So we're talking about this, you and me, or something should come through for salaried class. We're getting butchered between higher inflation, higher fuel, and higher GST. So the only way to beat inflation now is to invest in equities.
Absolutely. Though the retail individual investors have seen a lot of interest in the equities. In fact, during the pandemic, we saw record high demat accounts being opened, and so many people who had never even looked beyond fixed deposits and recurring deposits now started bringing in money to the stock market. But there has been one category of investors who have continuously followed the Quit India movement, and they are the FIIs. Right? More and more RIIs coming into picture, more and more mutual fund inflows coming into the markets. But I mean, FIIs are just not wanting to stay here. I mean, I, as a person who is wanting to understand the markets, I really don't understand the reason why they are just fleeing away from our markets. What could that one factor be from yesterday's budget, which might turn them again into net buyers rather than being net sellers for a long time now?
So absolutely, there's been $6 billion of outflow that we've seen from the Indian market, right? 40,000 crores just in the month of January has gone out. Now it's a global sell-off, as we know. There is this very lethal cocktail that's happening globally. There is higher oil prices, higher interest rates, higher global inflation, slower growth because of the pandemic, and all of that is leading to high PE assets losing their worth. So it has nothing to do with India. It's a global sell-off that we are a part of. So if an FI has 100 rupees across 5 markets, he's removing 20 rupees from each market. And just because right now, perhaps in a high interest rate environment, it's not prudent, it's not the most financially. That is the reason. But I think the more important number and the most savvy investor is the domestic investor, the retail investor. Their money, as you said, demat accounts have hit record highs right now. So that is the more important number to track. I have stopped believing this relevance of foreign investors, because our market is solely being run on its own steam. But of course, having said that, this 10% fall that you saw in the last 2 months from the highs, that is led by FIIs pulling out money. But I don't think an average retail investor should worry too much about the FI selling.
Absolutely. Because, before the budget, there were certain people who were mentioning over the TV channels that maybe there is some ambiguity about the taxation or what. Was it something related to that where because of some ambiguity, FIIs were pulling out money, or as you mentioned, was it just because of a pure global sell-off?
No. In fact, Rachana, in last year's budget, there was a lot of clarity given on tax.
Okay.
Complete tax clarity, no wealth tax.
Mm.
There was no ambiguity at all. And the government has in fact done a lot, whether it's putting in GST, whether it's different. I mean, last year, there were a lot of reforms that the government announced in the last year's budget and through the year. Whether it's the creation of a bad bank, whether it's the
Yeah.
asset monitoring scheme, whether it's tax clarity, whether it's GST, a lot of things were announced. Whether it's the PLI scheme, right? The PLI production linked incentive scheme is big for export sectors.
Absolutely.
So all the government has done now is they're saying that we have announced those schemes, whether it's the rural Manrega scheme, we have announced them and we are going to just do proper execution of those schemes, which I think is great. Tax clarity, there is complete clarity, so FIIs don't have anything to worry about.
Okay.
I just think that it's a global sell-off, and our boat is also kind of just going along in that.
Absolutely. So, with all these amazing points that you have clarified over the last, I guess, 10-15 minutes, one last question that I would want to ask, which is not truly related to the budget, because you have been in this sector for almost 14 years or 14, 15 years or now. If a person is pursuing his or her career and is wanting to enter the space of television and media, what could be your guru mantra for such a person who wants to pursue a career in this field? What basic checklists he or she must do? What are the basic skill sets that the person should develop so that he can be successful in this field?
Okay, that's a hard one because right, I mean, it's just by trial and error that a lot of us really reach where we are. I want to put this on camera and say, and I've said it before also, I don't have an MBA degree.
Mm-hmm.
I have a CFA degree. I'm not a CA. I'm just a graduate.
Mm.
But what I do have is a lot of on-the-job learning. I research a lot. I read every day, at least for 2 hours a day. I read.
Wow.
I read balance sheets. I read annual reports. I read research reports. I read the news, and a lot of self-learning.
Yeah.
Along with self-learning, there's a lot of sacrifice. I think for the last 13 years of my life, I've been waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning purely because demands it, right? My first show is at 7. My job demands it. Marriage has come and gone. Motherhood has come and gone. Family issues have come and gone. Health issues have come and gone. COVID. But in all that, I think what has stood tall for me is dedication to my work, waking up, reading as much as I can. And I think data, you need to be factual. You need to know your data. By the hour, you will improve. It's just by virtue of doing the same thing over and over again. But all I want to tell the youngsters out there is you don't need a fancy degree. You don't need a global MBA. You don't need a fancy CFA degree or, work with a fancy multinational company or something like that. All you need is just perhaps to be at the right place at the right time, which no one can figure that out. But dedication, reading, research, that's all you need.
I think there is a very similar Warren Buffett quote wherein he mentions that you need not be smarter than the rest. You need to be more disciplined than the rest to be successful.
Yeah.
So I think you said it and very well summed it up. And I think a very, very key takeaway that she mentioned right now, because, there are many people who are of this category that maybe they graduate from some other discipline, maybe engineering or something like that. Then they want to move to stock markets. They want to, pursue their career here. And then they keep on believing that, I don't have that degree now. What to do? So I think this is a classic example wherein Sonia mentioned that she got a lot of on-job training, very important. She reads for 2 hours in a day, super important. She wakes up at 5 in the morning, right? So all this is a part of well-disciplined, and there are many people who just look at the success side of the story. That's just the finished product. You need to look at the raw material, right? The discipline, the efforts that go on to build in such a nice career. So I think
say one thing, that don't let anyone get in the way of what you want to achieve. Don't even let yourself get in the way. Sometimes, the only person who's in the way of our success is us.
Absolutely.
Get out of your own way, just move, get your head out of your, way, and then move on. Because I remember when, as I told you, I joined on 15 September 2008. And at that time, my boss at that time, of course, there was a lot of stress because Lehman had collapsed. So you had to do a lot of coverage and everything. So in I think a stressful moment, my boss told me that, I don't think this place is for you.
Ooh, okay.
There was one line that I mean, he just sort of said it before, I think in passing. So I thought about it. Then I said, let me give it 1 month. Let me give it 2 months. Let me give it 1 year. Let me see how it goes. Now, in hindsight, I realize that if I had let that person or my own thoughts get in my way,
True.
I would be here today.
Amazing. I think, Sonia, a very similar incident, in fact, also happened with me. My very first teaching assignment that I had, it was about to start, let us say, the next day, and the previous day, the batch itself got cancelled, and I was replaced by some other faculty, and I was like, I'll do anything in my life but teaching. So had I stuck to that, so that वो भूत सवार था मेरे दिमाग पे कि कुछ भी हो जाए teaching नहीं करूंगी. That happened for like 5-6 months, but that phase also passed away, and I'm glad that the same thing, I overcame that thought. Just because one person did this, can't decide what I love and can't decide what I want to do, right? So it's all about pursuing what you love, pursuing what you think that yes, I can do it, and just giving your 100% in that. So, wow, that was an amazing discussion, not only about budget, but overall, I think it went really well. Maybe just cherry on the cake, Sonia, like I mentioned in the beginning of the interview, 1 or 2 sentences in Marathi, if you can.
I don't know Marathi, I mean, I barely am able to speak in Hindi.
थोडं बोलता येतं का काही अजिबातच नाही?
थोडं येते.
काय येते की काय पाहिजे मग अजून?
मला मराठी खूप आवडते.
क्या बात.
बोलायला नाही येत.
बोलायला येते. It's all about confidence.
Confidence can pull off a lot of things.
Absolutely. Wow, I think this was again one of the amazing interviews that I did. Till date, I can surely say fun-filled, packed with knowledge, packed with a lot of experience, stories about the career as well. So all in all, I think a perfect recipe for a successful interview, I can say. Thanks a lot, Sonia, for taking out time for coming on.
Say thank you, because you don't realize how infectious your energy is. And I'm telling you, like, so everyone, when you wake up in the morning, they call it the butterfly effect, right?
Oh,
when
yeah.
you wake up, every person you meet, everything you touch gives off some energy and some vibe.
True.
You meet the kind of people, you get vibes of them, and then you translate that vibe to whoever you meet next.
True.
So thank you for passing on some amazing followers, to all your YouTube followers as well. I hope you continue to thrive in whatever you do.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Sonia. Thanks for that. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So the next guest for the day is one of India's youngest billionaire. And he started working at a call center at the age of 17 and became a billionaire at the age of 34. So if I only talk about these 2 to 3 sentences, ideally one should be able to guess who this person is. But still, I would want to give you one more hint that he is the one who is one of the co-founders of True Beacon, which was established in 2019 to change the way ultra HNIs and HNIs build wealth. And now if I give you a final clue, which is about that he's also co-founder of one of the leading brokerage houses in India, which is Zerodha, I think then that is like, अब तो बहुत easy हो गया यार. So let me welcome Mr. Nikhil Kamath for our interview, which is about analyzing budget 2022 with industry experts. Hi, Nikhil, how are you?
Hi, Rachana. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thanks a lot for taking out time for our channel.
Thank you for the very exaggerated introduction. I think you're more popular than I am.
Oh, really? Don't say that. That's too flattery. All right. So, as I mentioned, that I'm sure you might be super busy with the budget in place. So I'm not going to take a lot of time of yours. I'm going to directly jump into the questions. The very question I have taken for you is based on the fact that you have been one of the key people in True Beacon, which is about investing wealth of HNIs and ultra HNIs. In that same context, in the budget yesterday, a specific point was mentioned by our finance minister that the surcharge on capital gains, which used to be as per the basis, right, different slab rates, and the highest slab rate, if I'm not mistaken, being 37%. Now that stands capped at 15%. So do you feel that because of this capped taxation, especially the surcharge angle, do you think that there'll be more comfort on the side of HNIs? Would they be more keen to invest more because the taxation has been reduced to some extent?
It doesn't make a substantial change. How much a HNI was paying before compared to how much he's paying now, the change is nominal.
Okay.
The instrument we operate is called Alternate Investment Fund. There are 3 categories: Cat 1, Cat 2, and Cat 3. Cat 3 is the category which is focused on public equity only. Here you're taxed at the max rate. So, you know, you pay, if it's a hedged transaction, you pay 43%. If it's equity transaction, you pay the LTCG rate. So people like us, I'll give you examples. You know, Edelweiss is like us. They have a product. Avendus, I think Marcellus has a product like us. Ambit too. We operate in the hedged space where we try to give better risk-adjusted rewards. And for people in our category, nothing has changed.
Okay, got it. So, as you mentioned that the capping of on surcharge actually has not, is not going to bring in a lot of change as such. But then one different point which was mentioned in the budget, which was about taxing digital assets at the rate of 30%, because right now we do use the word TINA, that there is no alternative, and for the equity space, I guess there was the TINA effect, which had continued for quite a long time. But with the introduction of cryptos, I think a lot of investors started to take more and more interest in that. Some were of the opinion that, hey, it's an amazing way to invest because there's no taxation. But now that the government has clarified that, okay, we are very happy to legalize this asset class, and आप भी खुश रहो, हम भी खुश रहेंगे, because investors were of the opinion that अरे अचानक से government ने ban किया तो क्या. So at least that point has now been taken care of. But on the flip side, they have taxed it at 30%. With this, do you feel that more flows might actually come up in the equity space?
Yeah, so I read the policy document which they issued yesterday, and the definition of a virtual asset is quite broad. One would assume that it includes crypto coins, and it probably includes Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything else. But she made a statement later post the budget saying that, this does not mean we are legalizing the crypto thing. Wait for the crypto bill to come, and this is just taxation on virtual assets. So then there's a lot of ambiguity there, right? But I don't think it's good for the crypto ecosystem where one was paying 0 tax. Now, if you have to pay 30% tax, I don't think anybody's happy, right? Also, it opens up arbitrage opportunities between equity and crypto. So if you hold equity for longer than 12 months, you pay 10% plus surcharge. In crypto, you pay 30%. Then one might wonder, will people create holding companies which are listed and their only job is to hold crypto on their asset base? Well, we have some examples in the US where this is happening, right? I can't remember the name of the company, but there are many companies which become proxies. A euphemized way to buy crypto is by buying companies where the main source of income is, holding crypto coins. But I think one has to wait. The problem with crypto for me is it is missold so much, not just in India, but across the world, as an instrument where, you can double your money and triple your money. But it's a very, very volatile instrument. We've seen the price go down by 50% in under 2 months. So as a retail investor, one has to be really cautious, try and understand the product, try and understand the risk. Definitely do not just buy it because somebody is randomly telling you, go buy crypto and you'll double your money. I don't think that makes sense.
True. I mean, just because FIS started selling HDFC Bank, the twins started crashing. And when HDFC went down by barely 8 to 10%, people were like, oh my God, this is down by such a big number. And the HDFC Bank of crypto, I can say, the top top 5 in the market cap, I can say, like Ether or ETH or, Bitcoin, when they crash by 50%, that's actually tells about the difference between equity volatility versus crypto volatility. And that's very rightly pointed out by you that we have to be really cautious while we invest in this asset class. So I believe with this said and done, in yesterday's budget, a lot of amazing points were discussed. Be it capex, be it the different infrastructure boosts that were declared during the budget. Be it something like drone as a service, battery as a service, some new words being used, something about blockchain. Gaming was mentioned in yesterday's budget. So all in all, whatever you read about the budget, the fine print, whatever, what is that one sector you believe has gotten the most out of the budget and which you believe can be a game changer for a year or two?
Well, the number of times drones were mentioned, I would assume something is going to happen there. I guess data centers will benefit from being added to the infra sector. I don't think anything stark happened towards any one particular sector. They didn't speak too much about healthcare. They said education, the budget is a bit more. See, the big question here is they want to spend, or they need 40 lakh crores or 39 lakh crores next year. Right now, the government thinks they will get 24, 25 lakh crores. The question is where the deficit comes from. In terms of divestment, the number is reasonable, significantly smaller than last, what anybody would have expected. And, one really wonders, where they will raise that money from and at what cost that money will come. Inflation is a big concern. The formal numbers seem to be around 5-6%, but pragmatically, when you live on the ground in India, you realize that inflation is probably higher than that. Food has rallied 100%. You pick steel, copper, iron, all these metals have rallied 100% plus. All of these are like big raw ingredients towards all kind of manufacturing. And if you go back in time and you look at history, whenever an economy, take Germany, for example, take America, for example, or even if you take the very early 1900s, that entire period was kind of like, highly inflated. So inflation, if it were to go up to as high as 10%, the only way to curtail it is by taking rates to a point higher than inflation. So if inflation is 10 and you want to really control it, you probably need the risk-free rate in the country to be 11-12%. And also you should think of inflation as a tax, right? Like your purchasing power is going down. So even though you're paying 34% income tax today, even though we are talking about the GDP growing by 10% or whatever, if inflation is 6%, then you need to minus, or you need to add that to your personal taxation, because your purchasing power or the power of that money is going down by that level.
Absolutely. So with this said and done, I just wanted to know your view on what FIIs have been doing for the past 2-3 months. They have sold something which is really hard to even digest. Every single day we pull out the FII data, it's like we just have to check sell by how much. We don't even check these days whether it's a buy figure or a sell figure. It is going to be sell, but by how much is what we've been tracking for the last few days. With yesterday's budget on the table now, do you feel that something has been placed in the budget because of which FIIs might turn net buyers rather than being net sellers for the coming few days?
Yeah. So Rachana, like I've been trading for a long time. I've been like doing the exact same job for 17, 18 years. And I look at FII numbers from back then, right? I look at them every day. FIs are not always right. There have been many cycles in the last 15, 20 years where markets have rallied when the FIs have taken out money. If you were to ask me, more times than not, the DIs get it right better than the FIs. If you look at outstanding positions in the market today, I would say about 48-49% of the money belongs to domestic promoters and domestic maybe 20% belongs to FIIs, and then maybe 8% is retail, and so on and so forth. So they have a sway, they have a say in the market, but I don't think they're the cardinal resource to define which direction the market will go in next. Yeah, sure, FIIs are selling, but I think it's more of a rebalance trade. They had gone overweight India a lot at the fag end of last year. And I feel like they're rebalancing to other economies like China. Notwithstanding the problems with China, nobody can really afford to ignore China. And I think they're rebalancing into other geographies outside of India after having made a great return in India.
Got it. Got it. So I think the point that you mentioned about the split between domestic institutional investors or be it retail individual investors, FIS, I think Zerodha has a big role to play with more and more retail individual investors coming in place. The way we have seen the surge in demat accounts, especially during the pandemic, and I think a major chunk of retail individual investors have entered through Zerodha's platform only. What could be that one suggestion that you would want to give them? Because these are the ones who have not seen the 2008 fall, right? That was the time when market had corrected by almost 40%. I cleared CA when I was in 2008, so I started my career during the Lehman Brothers crisis. So what a year to start off, right? But that was how I started. I got a very initial experience about how markets can behave, how how big time they can correct during such economic scenarios. Right now, just last 1 or 2 months, we saw a market correction by barely 10%, and there was a huge panic. So what would that one thing, maybe I can call that as a guru mantra to all the investors who have recently entered into the market, what would you want to tell them?
Yeah, firstly, just to set context, even after all the new people have come in, I think maybe about 2% of India's population has equity exposure, either directly or indirectly. Like you take the West, for example, it's 40%, 50%. If not directly, they have 401ks, which have an equity exposure in their savings. Well, if you ask me, like being candid, personally, I feel like these markets which rally 40, 50% are a bad thing. Like, I don't want to see the markets go up 50%, fall 30%, and make 100 people lose money in the process.
Sure.
I would probably be much happier with a market which rallies 7, 8, 10% every year, beats inflation, and everybody makes a better return than they would have in their fixed deposit or other investment classes which are less riskier on paper. If I have to specifically give advice to new people who have come in, don't get swayed by emotion. Just because markets rallied so much last year does not mean they will rally so much again this year. Have reasonable expectations of the market. If you're able to make 12, 13% in the market returns over the long term, you're like doubling your money every 5.5 years. The power of compounding is incredible. Do not leverage. This is the one key reason why I see many people go bust, is they're in a hurry to make money and they leverage too much. I would say, please do not leverage. And for a large part, I do this myself, stick to large cap blue chip equity. There are many opportunities there. You don't need to buy this penny stock or this small cap company, which, you read on your phone, you got a message and you want to somebody sent you'll make 50% in 3 months. You have to remember, if it was that easy to make 50% in 1 year or in 6 months, these people would not be sitting and sending SMS messages.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
I think three very important points that you have mentioned, which is about, think from a longer term perspective. Don't have a fancy expectation of 50% in a year or something like that. Even if you're even if you're getting double the returns of FD, that should be more than enough. The minimal expectations we keep, we tend to make lesser mistakes. The more and more expectations we are going to have, wo kuch aaj kuch tufani karte pattern mein, something is going to go wrong, and we might end up investing our money in wrong asset classes or in wrong shares. So I think that was a very candid interview with Mr. Nikhil Kamath, and he has been kind enough to take out time of 2nd February, 1st and 2nd February is something like everyone is super busy reading a lot of stuff, understanding, analyzing, but thanks a lot, Nikhil, for sparing your time and enlightening our viewers.
And let me also add before we finish that, kudos to you and all the really young social media influencers who are becoming.
I'm sorry, I'm pausing you. Thank you for adding that word, young influencers.
Yeah. No, but I think it's incredible that you guys are going out there and for free are educating the retail investors. And, back in the day, one always had to rely on books and the news and stuff like that to gain market knowledge, jargon, all of that. But you guys are doing an incredible job and you're doing it for free. So, pat on your back and kudos to the great job you guys are doing.
Thanks a lot, Nikhil. And it's because of you and Mr. Nitin Kamath that you just revolutionized the entire way in which people invest in equities. I remember when I started, I was in CA final at that time, 2006 roughly. And I remember we used to call on the broker's number, and then we used to place our trades. At that time, anyways, we had limited money. So we had two numbers. One was a toll-free number and one was a paid. So वो paid के लिए भी पैसा नहीं होता था तब. तो toll free के लिए हम राह देखते बैठते थे कि वो कब उधर का बंदा phone उठाएगा. And from that to placing a trade while we are waiting on the signal where it's 120 seconds more to go. This has been a crazy change, and I think you two have done a fantastic job and have just eased out things for the retail individual investors. So more power to you, and may you keep on building more and more awesome products for everyone.
Thank you, Rachana. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Nikhil. See you next time. All right, so let's move on with our next guest. And I'm sure the moment I tell you that he is associated with a company which very recently got an amazing response to their IPO, wherein their IPO got oversubscribed by more than 17 times, wherein be it retail individual investors, QIBs, HNIs, everyone has subscribed quite a bit for their IPO. And that was the reason why it got oversubscribed by more than 17 times. And of course, I'm sure you have guessed the name of the company, and that is Adani Wilmar. Who do we have as our guest? We have Mr. Angshu Mallick, and I'm so happy to introduce him to our channel because a person who has such a rich experience in the sector of FMCG. He has been in this space for more than 35 years. I mean, that in itself is such a big time span, and I'm sure he might have seen a huge shift in this entire industry as a whole, right? He holds a bachelor's degree in dairy technology, and he did his post-graduation in rural management from Institute of Rural Management, Anand. And he has also been working with, he has also worked with Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation Limited. I'm sure you might be like, ye kaun sa naam hai? And I'm sure if I say this is like Amul, then it is much familiar to us, right? He had been a manager for marketing and distribution there. And now, coming to his current position, he is the man behind Adani Wilmar, and he has been with this group since 1990. Am I correct?
99.
99.
Since we started in 99.
Wow, amazing. So a very, very warm welcome to you, sir. Thanks a lot for taking out time for our channel.
Thank you, Rachana. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So I'm sure you must be having a very, very crazy schedule, especially because of your IPO, which is very well set to get listed on the board. So I'm not going to take a lot of time, and we'll directly jump on to the questions which are related to the budget, right? I believe that whatever we saw in the last few months or quarters, I can say, FMCG sector as a whole witnessed a slight decline is what I believe, typically in the rural regions. And I read it over the internet that FMCG sector volume witnessed somewhere around 2.9% decline in rural regions. With this, of course, I agree that that's not a huge downfall as such. But what do you believe that overall India story, it's surely a consumption driven story with more and more population of our India, the demographic dividend that we have right now, young population, people moving more and more towards cities, overall income levels increasing. How do you see entire FMCG sector as a whole? But as I'm mentioning, as a whole, not only in tier 1, tier 2 cities, but also from the rural perspective for the coming decade. How do you see the FMCG sector?
Okay, Rachana, first of all, you see the union budget, which comes once in a year, is actually, we look at it as a continuity of a chapter. When you read a book, you go from one chapter to another. You have some continuity and something new. The budgets must always have some continuity and something fresh. Why continuity? Because businesses are not made in 1 year. Business is built over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So continuity is the hallmark.
Absolutely.
So budget is the direction or the thought of the government. Now, when the government thinks that I will put more than 7 lakh crore rupees for infrastructure development, when I will put 25,000 kilometers of highway in one single year, when I will put 100 such hubs of logistic hubs, And that makes a lot of difference to the thought process that the government is interested in infrastructure. Now, let me tell you, private parties or individuals like us cannot invest big money because we have limited capital. But the government can always kickstart big economic drives. Absolutely. Now, the moment you go for 25,000 kilometers of road, highway, just imagine the type of cement, steel, road, stones, all these are required. Then you need people. Who will these people be? Who will work on the streets? These are all the rural people, because it's through this area which this road will pass. So obviously, they will get the first priority. Now, when this happens, this job will come. When the job comes, they get money in their hand. Once they get money in their hand, they start buying products which they want. Now, what is it that people want? People first want food, then clothing, and then shelter. Three basic things. And more than 50 to 60% of anybody's income of a poor man goes into this first.
True.
So, kickstarting economy and pushing capital expenditure has been the government job since last 4 or 5 years, and now also they have done it. And that is the best part of it. PM Gati Shakti project of integrating 7 mode of transport is a great thought. Let me tell you, we are in business. We know how difficult it is to get paddy or rice from Firozpur to Mundra and then export. Now, it is costly. Now, suppose I want to send to Chennai from Firozpur, Punjab. What I have to do, I have to bring it to Delhi, and then I have to load it in a container. From Delhi, it will go to Chennai. There from Chennai, it will go to, say, Trichy or Madurai and all this. So there is so much of big transportation cost. Now, the moment highways are made, 25,000 kilometers, my speed of transport becomes very fast. My cost reduces. So these are something which one has to look in totality. When it comes to FMCG, you are talking of FMCG. There is not anything specific about any sector within the business, but yes, there are certain things on agri which government has done. First, very good idea of chemical-free, pesticide-free irrigation and crop in 5-kilometer width of the Ganges belt and then across the country. Okay. This is a very great thought, let me tell you. We are finding it very difficult many times to export our rice, basmati rice or any other product, agri product to Europe, US, Canada, because the pesticide levels in India is high. So this will help companies like us and many others to talk to the farmers, work with the farmers, associate with the farmers, and then take a buyback, something of the produce, and then export. So obviously, it's a win-win. The farmer also wins, the company also wins, nation also wins. So these are some path-breaking thought process. It's a thought, let me tell you. It may not happen in 1 year, but this thought is the beginning of chemical-free or pesticide-free agriculture business in India. Absolutely. That is one. Second is the digital. You see, drones are now being used to study the crop pattern. Now, abroad, what happens, in Canada and all that, we have seen they use drone to understand how your crop is shaping up in the 4 months. Yes, they are doing it in the 4 months. Every month, they just fly the drone and they do the photography, and then they study what is the stage of maturity of the crop. Now, you don't have to travel. You just sit at one place and do all the things. Now, that getting that, and there will be startups who will come up and help the farmers in doing it. I am told that there are a lot of startups who are already working in this direction, but the government policy helps the organizations and the farmer. That is the second. Third is the use of digital technology in farming. So these are some of the path-breaking thought process. Not that everything will happen by year 2023, but is an indication. Second, it gives also an indication to companies like us to also start thinking in the same direction and possibly invest.
True. I think whatever points you mentioned in that also our finance minister had talked about DaaS, which is drone as a service. So I think that was also something very good to hear, wherein, yesterday when I gave a session on my YouTube channel, I said that this was like a new India's budget. I got that feeling like wherein our finance minister is talking about drones, she's talking about blockchain, she's talking about gaming. I mean, that was something which actually blew off my mind, that we are actually moving towards a very fast track growth, and our thoughts are surely are widening. Like you very well said, that this all things might not happen in a single year, but I think if I look at a larger picture, maybe a decade to come, I think all these can very well bring in some positive changes. So with that said and done, I think one important point which I heard in the budget yesterday, and I believe that it might have a very good connection with your company, was that the government has promoted domestic production of oil seeds in this budget. She very clearly mentioned about that. Right now, when I was analyzing your company, I actually got to know that our import bill for crude, all these oil seeds is huge. So, as a common man, I really fail to understand that why is there a dearth in the domestic production of oil seeds? And if government is wanting to boost domestic oil seeds production, what could be the way ahead for that?
See, the government has been talking about it and has been planning. There has been oil seed missions and all that. But in the last 2 years, the present government has been taking seriously this matter. And they have started giving some incentives to farmers in Haryana. That you grow mustard in place of wheat, I will give you X incentive. Now, these are all the indications that shift in crop pattern will bring in more oilseed. Now, let me tell you, we are self-sufficient in wheat. We have excess wheat.
True.
We export wheat. But we are short of oil seeds and we import oil. Now, the mission and we as an industry have been always telling that why not give incentive to farmer to switch from wheat to mustard seed. Absolutely. Now, why farmers don't shift? Because they get MSP in wheat, but not in mustard seed. So it's like if I assure you full salary and in another place I give you only variable salary, obviously you will go for a full fixed salary. Now that is what is the farmer's mentality. Now, government is thinking, why not also work on this line and assure the farmers that you will get a good price. Now, what government has done, they have slowly improved or increased the edible oil prices. So you have seen that in the last 4 or 5 years, the edible oil prices were very steady. In fact, it was not going ahead in line with the inflation.
Okay.
Only last year, it picked up at around 50%, 60%. So people started making a lot of complaints. But otherwise, honestly tell you, if you draw a 10-year line graph, you will find edible oil prices has been more steady. Now, once the government gives incentive to farmers to grow mustard seed, what will happen? They will grow mustard seed.
True.
But it is the industry which has to come up to put up the factory to process.
Absolutely.
Who is going to process? Now, I am a farmer. I have produced mustard seed, but you are not buying. Then where do I go? In wheat, at least the government was buying. So companies like us taking preemptive steps, we are going ahead with big manufacturing and crushing units. In our IPO, if you see, we have put 2 500-ton mustard seed crushing unit, one in Haryana, one in Punjab, one in Haryana, one in Rajasthan, because we believe India will produce more seed, India will require more capacity. Whoever is first will win the race.
Amazing.
So we are putting up that, assuming that this is government thought. So I said in a budget, you must look at the angle of vision and then you plan. Our factory will not come in 1 year. Correct. It will take 2 years.
True.
But in 2 years, I am sure government will do more than what they are doing.
Otherwise, then, it feels like getting stuck up in the chicken and egg problem. Right? Because we don't have oil seed manufacturers, there are no factories. But even if farmers are saying, we'll grow oil seeds, but who is there to put up a factory? And I think that's a great step that your company is taking to, build up factories. And I think this will all in all create that much wanted driving effect for the entire imports as well, as I mentioned, that bill for imports might also reduce substantially. Right. So moving ahead with our next question, as you rightly mentioned, a lot of announcements were made during the budget yesterday. You also briefed out about so many announcements, and also you focused on few points as to how giving a huge boost to capex can in turn generate employment, their disposable income increases, and consumption increases. Again, it's an effect, right? But if I ask you that one key takeaway from the budget yesterday, which you believe that is like one of the highlight points of the budget and which can give a good boost to the economy,
is the infrastructure capex of 7.35 lakh crores.
Yes.
And 25,000 kilometers of road promised for the year 23.
Yeah.
That these are big things. It is not small thing, because when you commit in a year, means it has to start from day one.
Yeah.
And 365 days, 25,000 kilometers is not a joke.
Absolutely. And like you very rightly said, because if the infrastructure and the transport facilities are up, if they are up to the mark, then obviously the cost of transportation decreases. If that is decreased, obviously your cost of production would decrease. You may be in a position to pass on the benefit to the end consumer as well. So all in all, would be a win-win situation. I mean, I would have really loved to go on for another at least half an hour. I'm pretty sure that you are super busy. But I think one of the most engaging interviews that I had today. Before I conclude, one last guru mantra, if you would want to give to our viewers about how they should pursue their career, their profession, because you have such an amazing, rich experience in your field of FMCG. So anyone who is want to start their career in this sector of FMCG, what do you think should be some skill sets or some basic checklists that one should tick off if he were to enter this sector?
Okay, see, first is that I am personally in the food sector. Food is an evergreen sector. We have seen COVID, we have seen demonetization, we have seen recession, we have seen good days, bad days. Food is most important. Whatever you do, whether in lockdown or in demonetization, I have seen people standing in the queue for 3 hours, but they first ate and then went for the changing the currency note. So food will always be alive and will always grow. That is one. Two, for a career to build, let me tell you honestly, you cannot build your career just moving around every 3 years in a different company.
Absolutely.
You have to stick and build it. You have to see good days of the company. You have to see bad days of the company. Many times I have seen the moment a difficult stage comes, when the sales pressures increases, the man leaves because he's afraid to face. I am here for the last 22 years, correct? And I worked in Amul for 13 years. I have never met CV. I got selected from campus. And when I came here, the company selected me from that campus.
Okay.
So I have never met CV. And I believe if you stick, you build a big career, because institutions are never built in a short span.
Wow. True.
So my only advice to people are that don't worry in the short run. Don't chase money. Money will chase you after 40. Till 40, only chase knowledge.
Amazing. Wow. This was truly inspiring, loaded with knowledge, experience. Wow, I'm really blessed to have this conversation with you. Thanks a lot once again, Mallick sir, for taking out time. And I believe that your company will see good days ahead under your leadership. All the best for the IPO. And thanks a lot once again for joining in.
Thank you, Rachana.
So here we go with our next esteemed guest, and he is a person who has a 25 plus years of experience in managing business, finance, IT, strategy, HR, admin, general management, operations, and oh my God, so many fields that he has actually seen over the past 25 years. Gives me a shade more happiness to introduce him, because he's a fellow chartered accountant by qualification, and he has an amazing experience in the IT industry. Currently, he is the managing director and CFO of one of the very renowned IT companies in our country. And with that, let me welcome Mr. Venkatraman Narayanan, and he is one of the gem of the persons who has been, very much instrumental in taking Happiest Minds to the position it is right now. So a very warm welcome to you, sir. Thanks a lot for taking out time for coming on our show.
Thank you very much. That was an absolute great introduction. I'm actually humbled. 25 years, yes, I've spent that kind of time after qualifying as a chartered accountant, and really happy to see your channel and the way you take finance and stock markets and lots of other related aspects to so many of your viewers. In fact, I also watch your channel, keep myself young and ready once in a while through such interactions.
Amazing.
Right.
So without further ado, I think let's get started with the base set of questions. I think yesterday's budget was a very growth-oriented budget, but simultaneously, I can say that a lot of emphasis was put on technology as well. So wherein the finance minister was trying to portray, I did mention this in my yesterday's video as well, कि ये नया India है. We are not the same old people where we would be just crying over old problems. But now we are here, we have accepted what it is. We are going to go ahead. So what is in store for the entire IT sector, given the fact that even our politicians are keen to portray India as a digital hub for the entire world?
Very nicely put. In fact, yes, I think the entire accent of the budget was to lay a platform for the next 25 years. I've been watching budgets during my early CA days, and I've seen it as a session of giveaways. What do I have in it for myself? And how do I go about understanding how I can save taxes? This was how it started out. And I'm sure in your early days, you would have also seen that what is part A, part B, looking at all the technical aspects of the budget. But since then, as I have matured, I see this as an annual general meeting of the country. You know, in a company, the chairman reproduces the results of the year and takes questions from the shareholders. It's very similar to that. The budget is nothing but balancing of the books of the country. How much did I get in terms of tax receipts? How much did I get in terms of non-tax receipts? And where do I spend it? So if you look at it as a base financial plan for the year, then you will realize that how much do I get? What is the key takeaway? What is a SOP for a particular set of people? That really vanishes, because reforms have now become part of the daily routine of this government. Listening, understanding what are the needs of the industry, whether it's IT, manufacturing, and coming out with various programs. For example, the PLI program. Production linked incentive program. It was something which came out of the budget. You hear a lot of details coming out of it after the budget. You see lots of these things, clarifications coming out routinely, that you don't wait for the budget to give you that big bang announcement.
Absolutely.
So if you keep that as I think in the background, you realize that this was a brilliant way to put forward a budget, starting with an economic survey. I'm sure the economic survey puts out the facts. So there is no bells and whistles saying, hey, you should do this, you should do this, which is what I have seen in the earlier economic surveys. But in this economic survey, it's a position of fact. This is where we are. Now go ahead and put out the balancing of the books statement in front of the shareholders, and then see what happens for the next year. What did our Honorable Finance Minister do? She just continued what has been set in motion by this government, which is making ease of doing business. If I look at it as an IT industry, ease of doing business affects everybody. Simplistically put, faceless assessment.
Absolutely.
You don't have to go to the assessing officer. As a chartered accountant during my earlier years, when I started, I did practice for a few years. I used to go and I used to stand in front of the income tax office and taking out all those papers, books, files. And I'm sure you have also seen this during your CA days. Faceless assessment. That's how technology has been adopted. It's a seamless move to technology. The entire portal of the IT portal. This is something which has come out of the budget, come out of the adoption of technology by the government. You don't find all of these in the fine print of the budget, but what you see is this adoption is happening as a part of the process. 50 times is the number of times the finance minister used the words digital and technology in yesterday's. 34 plus 26, so maybe 60 times. Nice. I was seeing the count and I got the exact number from today's newspapers. I was impressed. So that's the extent to which they're adopting technology. Gati Shakti, again, that's obviously a way to manage projects. Absolutely. But how are you going to manage it? Creating a dashboard using technology. So all through the digital, the JAM, the India stack, direct money transfer, underlying is all technology. So I believe technology is now the bedrock on which India's finance plan is built on. Second most important thing I think is it's no longer that budgets usually is built on what do I give, what do I do, and how do I use technology. Today, if you sit back and think, it's I have this technology and how do I put to good use to take it to the people of the country. The digital currency that the government is talking about. UPI was not something that came out of a budget. Absolutely. I didn't hear it in a budget earlier, but the government set up NPCI, UPI came out, got rolled out, and today, lo and behold, the number of transactions that are happening, including applications into IPO, rights issue, mind-boggling. It's a similar thing that they're talking about digital currency. Now, they're not talking about cryptocurrency here. They're talking about digital currency. We'll wait to hear how it's rolled out by the Reserve Bank of India, but they have set it in motion. So the budget today is a directional statement talking about, I'm going to get tax income, 11.4% of next year tax to GDP ratio. It's improving from the 10% that it was. So they're talking about compliance, doing it easily, collect the tax, deploy it into CAPEX. This particular budget was all about capital exchange. I'm not going to talk capital investments. I'm not going to talk about it more because I think TV debates over the last 12 hours has just been about how 10 lakh crores is going to flow into the hands of many people. Yeah. So I think a great directional budget, see it as a statement of the state of the nation, the finance position of the company to the shareholders. And like in any other AGM, you have only about 0.2 or 0.3% in attendance. So, for example, Happiest Minds, we got 6 lakh shareholders, but how many do turn up for an AGM? True. Very similar to that. And so it's incumbent upon channels like you and people like you to take it to a larger audience and make them understand, rather than just say, hey, what is in it for me?
Absolutely. And this year, I tried to do this new experiment wherein not only me, but, amazing people like you who have a lot of experience and can give their own perspective about it. Because, for me, I do try to analyze it, but a person who sits in a specific, I can say that a person who has viewed a specific sector for such a long time, I think that person can bring in a lot of expertise on the table and can, throw a very nice perspective on
sector specific.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I gave a lot of idhar-udhar ka answer if you were thinking, but now coming to a sector specific answer, they are setting up a committee to look into PE VC investments. How do we make that easy for people to make investments? Correct. Obviously, that will not just say, hey, you know what, investing in India suddenly become free from January 1st. They have to do quite a few other things. They have to make the FEMA regulations easier, the reporting process easier, ease of doing business has to be, you have to go up the index, and so which PE and VC investments can flow into the country. It also makes, how do you go IPO easier? Because some people do recount saying that a process of going public in India is a little bit slow and painful compared to how quickly we can go for an IPO in the US. You have blank check companies. In India, you don't have blank check companies. So these are all things I'm sure which will come out of this committee, which will study how to ease PE VC investments into the country. But that there is one line, and that's something that's going to affect the tech and the non-tech industry. And you see almost 80-90% of the investments that is coming into the country. If you take out the hubs that are being created for the fabless manufacturing and the chip manufacturing or mobile phone manufacturing, most of the other things are coming in, most of the other investments is coming into technology. So lots of money waiting in the wings to come into technology. Second is adoption of technology in all government processes. That's all that is for us to pick. Third is they are also talking about SEZs. We IT companies have been asking SEZs, why don't you clarify this? Why don't you clarify that? Instead of doing that, they are saying, let's look how the SEZs do they make sense anymore?
Exactly.
Shall we go in? Can we associate with the states and see if we can come up with a new setup or some things which are better or even better than the SEZ?
Absolutely.
Most important, skilling. Today, if you ask any IT company, what skilling me is a skill availability. I don't have people to recruit from because, the right people at the right time is what drives IT services industry.
Absolutely.
When you talk about skill, you're talking about raw materials for me.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about people, which is the real asset for IT services. And that's what drives the export growth of IT services.
Exactly.
Merchandise exports is expected to go about 400 billion this year,
Mm-hmm.
if my numbers are right. IT exports will be almost half of that. It's counted separately, but about 190 billion. And we are expecting that to go to 350 billion in 5 years. So it's almost like our country, which is 2.78 trillion in GDP right now, going to 5 trillion, right, in 5 years.
Exactly.
We are also expected to grow in line with that same growth, in fact, faster.
Absolutely.
And what are they doing? They are clarifying many of these small things, irritants, making assessments easier, making it easier for people to file their income tax returns, because we are a people-centric industry. And whatever makes it easy for them, makes it easy for us.
Absolutely.
Long-term capital gains, they've harmonized the surcharge on that. Earlier, it used to be higher. So IT companies, many of us do get ESOPs.
Yeah.
You end up, when you sell, you end up paying surcharge
Absolutely.
at 37%. Now they have made it and harmonized it to much lower,
15%.
15%. It's a very good thing. We would have liked to hear clarification on ESOPs. We would have liked to hear clarifications on FEMA. How do you, for example, acquiring companies overseas, the structure, the business structure of acquisition requires payment of earnouts. You structure it as earnouts. So you pay 50% or 60% upfront, and then you pay 40% as and when the company which is sold to you achieves certain target. This is very good from the Indian scenario, from a foreign exchange standpoint. But somehow our Reserve Bank is yet to come to grips with this, or they are saying they are moving slowly on it. So what I'm trying to say is, as we move forward, these things will get clarified, and all the right noises have been made in the current budget. And I think they have been doing it over the last 2, 3, 4 years, and you can see the benefits of that flowing into the industry or the IT sector as a whole. And I think the skilling aspect of skilling, digital university, creating universities within the gift city, all of this are going to help us immensely, because that's the raw material for us, and I can't keep emphasizing on that anymore.
I think, sir, being a chartered accountant, you have not only touched upon IT, but all the various aspects of the budget, including the long-term capital gain tax, or be it about various other things. But I think all in all, put in a very simplified manner to our audiences. One more question that I wanted to ask is that these days, we hear a lot of buzzwords like DaaS, MaaS, all these, drone as a service, then software as a service, maps as a service,
I know.
right? So all these as a service kind of thing, or battery as a service. In fact, that was
battery
also
as a service. Yes, that was mentioned.
Right?
Yes.
So all these things, are these also somewhere connected to IT? Because when I was studying about your company's annual report, I guess your tagline is born digital, born agile, right?
That's right.
And you have also mentioned that the digital revenues of your business are forming a major chunk of your total revenues. So how is that digital thing different from a company like maybe Infosys or a traditional IT company, right? Is it all these DaaS, MaaS and all these concepts that come up under digital, or what? I mean, as a layman, if you can make me understand.
So just to give you a little bit of history, 10 years back, we started the company. At that point in time, we said we will play on the cutting edge of technology. So then you look at what is cutting edge. Like I keep saying at that point in time, why cutting edge? Because the traditional IT, which is database management, SAP implementation, ERP implementation, systems and server maintenance, migration of servers from older technology to newer technology, all of this were taken over by many other companies. So you don't really have a place to play. So then you look at what is the area which is like to explode. Then the terms like, analytics, IoT, Internet of Things, and you would have heard of mobility. And then cloud, mobility, cloud, analytics, and social media. So this is what was known as digital about 10 years back. So then we said these are all on the periphery, and they are all interesting aspects of technology growing fast. You know how Facebook and all of these things have grown, social media have grown, and the impact of social media. We are now using a platform so effectively. This is a social media platform. So it has grown, and how do businesses use it, and how do you monetize on these assets? So we said we'll create a services company which will only play in that area. And that's why we called ourselves a new age technology born digital company. Now, agile is a methodology of delivery of projects. Okay.
Something like a JIT, is it?
Just in time, okay, it's something like that in technology, where technology, it's a way of how you break down projects into logical pieces and you do real-time development. So you don't, there is something in the earlier days called water flow model of development of software, which is what I studied in CA, and I'm sure you would have also studied in one of those papers, where the whole requirements are given and then people keep on developing it in modular pieces. But these modules are then broken down into smaller understandable segments. That's called agile way of development. Agile as an English word also is something that we adopt in all things that we do in the company. So speed of response. So that's why we said we are a born digital company. We were born digital and we are born agile. That's the positioning. Now, all the work that we do today is only in these areas, which is today IoT, SaaS, product engineering services, cloud transformation, social media, helping companies with social media, Salesforce, digital transformation, and such. So if a company wants to change their internal process, adopt these new these new digital technologies, we are there to help. If you want to create a SaaS product, we are there to help. If you want to create a platform for your internal customers, external customers, we are there to help. If you want to migrate from an old ERP or any of those platforms to a newer technology, we are there to help. So that's why we have taken this position of born digital, born agile. Now, everybody is moving to this because large amounts of spend in the global IT industry is going towards digital and not for the older technology. So everybody has to move. Just that we were at the right place at the right time. We had adopted a right strategy of focusing on the growth areas. We are growing. That's why we are 100% digital company. And just to give you one metric, we are about 95% of what we do is only digital areas.
Yeah. All right. So we are falling a little short on the time. So maybe just one or two last questions to wrap up. If you can quickly tell me one key area or one key point that you would want to take away from the budget, which you believe can help boost the growth of our country for the next 8 to 10 years.
CapEx, 10 lakh crores. And for a change with all the tax rebates and reduction in tax that was given a couple of years back, I think the private sector will also replicate that with an equal spend. So we are looking at 20 lakh crores coming into the capital expenditure side. That's going to drive this economy. Like they said, when the economy is down, build roads. That's what the US used to do. True. I think we are doing something, which is why economy, the spend is going to be on roads, ports, digital infrastructure, OFC cables, 5G, all of which is technology, but all of that is going to help this transition.
Absolutely. And one last, maybe I can say, call it as a guru mantra from your side to those who are wanting to start their careers. Any piece of advice for the viewers?
This is something that I would like to share. A lot of budding chartered accountants, young finance professionals, non-finance professionals. Life is not a straight line up. So what happens in today's world, many of us look at how my compensation is growing up and is it going as a straight line up? You need to realize that people who do business, start business, actually go into negative. I guess you understand what I'm talking about. It's just not getting your monthly pay, but you're actually starting to invest money and starting to do something. So respect the entrepreneurs, and life is not a straight line up. You can make changes in life basis what interests you and what your strengths are. Play to your strengths, forget about everything else. The rest will fall in place. That's my mantra.
Amazing. That was such a lovely insight. And I'm sure everyone who is going to watch this entire video once it goes live is going to be like completely jaw-dropping after.
I hope so.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure the thing about social media is you will get real-time feedback on the
go feedback.
On the go feedback. Absolutely.
Right. Great. So thanks a lot, sir. Once again, for
thank you very much, Rachana. Thanks for the opportunity.
whenever
for
time
the
permits,
opportunity.
would like to get back. Would like to invite you again on the channel to
Sure.
learn more about maybe IT specific inputs, but
Absolutely.
some other time maybe, for sure.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank
a
you
lot.
very much. Bye-bye. Bye.
We are going to invite Dr. Naresh Trehan, and I'm really feeling so good to invite him on our channel. Just let me quickly introduce him, and I'm sure you are going to be like, you'll have to close your mouth, right? Because he has been bestowed with Padma Bhushan, Padma Shri, Dr. B.C. Roy Award, which was awarded by the President of India. It is like the highest honor that can be achieved by any doctor in India. Our guest, Dr. Naresh Trehan, is the CMD, that is the chairman and managing director of Medanta Heart Institute. And he is a cardiovascular and cardiothoracic surgeon over last 5 decades. And he has an amazing experience in the field of cardiovascular surgery. So a big welcome to Dr. Naresh Trehan, sir. Thanks a lot for taking our time to come on our channel.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So I know you are going to be super busy with your schedule, so I'm not going to waste your time at all. I'm directly going to jump on to our very first question, because here we are to get the industry experts' views on the budget. And because you have such a rich experience in the healthcare sector, we would really want to know your views on the announcements made for the healthcare sector in yesterday's budget, right? Especially there was a mention of National Tele-Mental Health Program and National Digital Health Ecosystem. So if you could just simplify what is this for our viewers?
So the first one, that is Tele-Mental Health Program, has been launched with the view that for the last 2 years, people have had a very severe sort of trying time, where either they were locked up for, in their rooms, some of them had lost their jobs, some of them lost really close relatives. So there has been a lot of mental stress, and of course financial along with it. So to be able to access the experts on mental health digitally, online, launched by the government, will be a big relief to those people. So it's a very good move that was made. Welcome. It has been welcomed very well by the medical fraternity and also by the public.
And the second one about National Digital Health Ecosystem, if you could just throw some light on that as well.
Yeah, so National Digital Health Ecosystem is a composite of several things. One being that all the healthcare services can be registered on this portal, where you know what are the areas which are oversupplied by healthcare services and which are the areas which are lacking. So that gives you a full idea of mapping what is the level of services available, whether it's primary, secondary, tertiary, or quaternary. So those are the things that can go on this portal, so that this information becomes available and analyzable. So it's an important step forward.
Got it.
And that will give them, it's like the Aadhaar card of healthcare services.
Okay. So would it be on both the sides, demand side as well as supply side? So for example, a person like me, my entire medical history, would that also be available on that? And plus on the
that's the next component of it.
Okay.
That is electronic medical record. So there will be a unique health number for each individual. In that, we can aggregate all the health record of that individual. Because what it does is, one, it makes a composite out of it. The other is the fact that you have portability. So if a person is being treated at one place and then either traveling or migrates to another place, and this record is not available physically with them, or the doctor who sees, if the patient will authorize, if the individual will authorize that this medical record can be viewed by the treating physician, whoever he wants to share it with, it is supposed to be, the security is supposed to be that it is only available at the consent of the owner of that record. That happens to be the individual. Now, this is because there's a lot of anxiety around the fact that you want privacy. You want your security of your data.
Exactly.
So the government has put in some places, some checks and balances, and I'm sure it will become more and more robust as we go forward. But the lacuna here is that very large number, maybe 75-80% of the of the hospitals are not on electronic medical records. So for them to actually digitize it and share it on the portal will take some time. So that I think is a very good move. So there is a health Aadhaar card kind of for every individual, and there is that registration of all health services. It's a very good step forward because it will also put in progressively quality management, all those paraphernalia which make sure that the people are getting the right kind of healthcare at the right price.
Absolutely. In fact, when you were explaining this concept, I could visualize this with something like a core banking. Before core banking came into place, I can imagine that if I am from Pune and if I shift to Mumbai, let us say, and then imagine that my bank is in Pune, I have to get back to Pune to do all the transactions.
Right.
Because we have a core banking system now, it's banking at any place. I think, can I compare that with what you were explaining for healthcare?
So I think, conceptually, this is what digitization enables.
Absolutely.
So it also now, we have been using digitization in healthcare for a long time. Institutions like ours, we have a substantial amount of digitization happening. True. And that's why we believe this is to make it a national platform will actually improve the quality of care. It will also give transparency.
True.
Because then that whatever treatment you are giving as a doctor also can be audited anywhere.
Absolutely.
At the behest of the patient. And I think from those point of views, this is a good standard of care process, which will go down the line. It will take some time, it will take a few years, but I think the beginning is excellent.
Amazing. So that was a very nice insight by you, and absolutely in simplified language so that everyone understood what is the logic behind National Tele Mental Health Program as well as National Digital Health Ecosystem, right? Moving ahead, if I were to ask you that one improvement or one or two improvements that you believe are really important for the overall improvement of healthcare infrastructure in India right now. So this question is not from a pure budget perspective or purely from a finance perspective. Overall healthcare in India, if it were to improve, maybe one or two points from your side, which you would want to be in place.
So what is our intention as a country, as a profession, as a provider, is to be able to be inclusive across the board.
True.
So that universal access to healthcare should be the right of every individual. Many steps have been taken, like Ayushman has brought in, 10 crore families into the loop. It's still not fully expanded, but it's moving along, which is nice. And that enables a huge number of people who otherwise were under huge financial stress, because if you look at it statistically, 2 to 4% people were pushed from above poverty line to below poverty line by healthcare burden. So if that has been removed from them, or at least progressively it will happen, that gives a huge relief to the public of India. Okay. The second thing is that as we move forward, there are other instruments available for access to healthcare, and that is insurance is one. Your own health security system can be established, like in the US. You can keep depositing money, tax exempt when you deposit it, in your own health plan. You're allowed X percentage of your income to be put in every year. So this is your own security. So your health security plan. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And you can use it when you use it. And if you're not using it for healthcare, like you didn't need any healthcare and you now want to access that money for whatever reason, then you pay the tax at that time. It's a very fair system.
Absolutely.
Now, how it will work in India is still to be worked out, but these are plans which are many countries have this. And I think it's a very good thing to say, in my priority, I make 100 rupees. Do I want to take 15, 10, 20 rupees out of that per year to actually put aside for my health security.
Got it.
Because my insurance may not cover it. You see, there are many instruments. So the
Absolutely.
insurance is a big, actually a safety net, which all over the world. In India, insurance is increasing. Private health insurance is increasing.
Absolutely.
But still, the penetration is, we need to promote that. We need to understand, and which is one of the things that the pandemic has done, has made it very clear to people's mind that, look, this is a very important aspect of health protection, is a very important aspect to invest in as you go along. So as we feel that it is proven that quaternary care, tertiary care institutions took care of so many sick people. Like we were always inundated. We have 300 critical care beds at Vedanta and Gurugram, and across the board we have close to 700. Now, all the strain on the ICU beds was so much that we were able to provide that facility to the sick people and save thousands and thousands of lives were saved all over India.
True.
Now, so that means that there is a reason that we need to continue not only making new health facilities, but also upgrading them to a level where they can handle the most complex of procedures. And also the fact that we have a huge gap in human capital. So we have shortage of doctors, we have shortage of nurses, technicians, and all that, so on and so forth. So we are saying that as we move forward in the infrastructure development, we must move forward in tandem with the education system, with the training system. And that is a skilling of doctors and otherwise. So that's also, if you see, there is a portal in this which says the national skilling, which is not specific to health, but it is for everybody.
True.
And I happen to chair the Health Sector Skill Council. So I'm very familiar with that, and I can see how this will popularize it more and more, and the fact that the education available will be accessed no matter where you are. So I think that these are all good steps done in this budget, no question.
Absolutely.
But the point is that there are some critical issues left for healthcare, and it is a dual thing. One, the GST. We requested when the GST formulation was taking place that we requested as providers that maybe the patients should be exempt from GST for their hospital bills or healthcare bills, so that the burden does not increase on the public. But at the same time, we find that we have to pay GST for all the consumables and all the vital materials that we acquire.
True.
So we don't get a set off. So ultimately, that cost is also passed on to the patient.
Absolutely.
Now, so it's in discussion with the finance ministry and health ministry. And maybe it's not a part of the budget, so it's one of those things. But what can happen, and what we had requested was that healthcare should be included in the national priority list. What it enables you to do is to access credit at a lower interest rate, which will help to enhance the creation of facilities not only in the metros but in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, which is sorely needed.
True.
So as we go forward, when these kind of things converge, we will be able to provide this kind of healthcare even into tier 2, tier 3 cities.
I think this point of national priority, putting healthcare in the national priority list is a very, very amazing point. And I think with that, like you said, that, financing for this sector and that too at a lower cost will be very much feasible, right? So with this into picture, just over on to the last question that I have for the budget. What was that one key takeaway from the budget, which you believe that can have a ripple effect for over 8 to 10 years? Because I believe that whatever budget was presented yesterday, that was not focused on only giving some subsidy, we are giving some temporary benefits, something like that. In fact, I believe that yesterday's budget was focused on more of growth perspective, wherein it was like building capacities which will reap benefits over a period of 8 to 10 years. In fact, in the budget yesterday, our finance minister also talked about 25 years from date. So that was something which was again different. I've never seen any finance minister talk about 25 years plan in the budget. So that one takeaway from the budget for the healthcare sector, which you believe was good, which can have an impact for next decade.
So, it's a government's policies, I mean, led by the Prime Minister, which is a good thing. It's filtering down. So you're saying we need to build the future for India so that in times to come, India can be at par or above any other country. That's a great aim to have. What is happening today is we are lacking in research. We are so far, because of our pharmaceutical industry, is basically copycatting pharmaceuticals, right? If somebody comes off, the molecule comes off the patent, then we are very, very quick and very efficient, and which is very good because it provides us with pharmaceuticals at a very rapid pace. But we are not really doing enough of new molecule discovery in India itself.
True.
Like Atmanirbhar part, if you apply to the medtech industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and also that we are at a level, because the doctors of India and the facilities that are existing in India are so huge, are such quality, and we can match our results with anybody in the world. So there is an opportunity here to make it. It is already present that there is a lot of inward traffic for medical value travel. We can actually enhance this hugely, and that is also the government takes on some of the mantle of trying to let it be known in the world how this can be actually accessed at the highest quality at 1/10 the cost of what the Western world can provide.
Absolutely.
So these are things like what we did. We built a Medanta in Lucknow, which is considered a tier 2 city. In my view, there are 200 million people in UP with not this kind of healthcare. So we provided it in Lucknow. Similarly, in Patna for Bihar, 120 crore people, 12 crore people, who don't have healthcare. So I think that overall, these are the kind of things that can give us help. If the government can, we can establish, because the price points in these cities is much lower. And to survive and to be able to take bold steps forward, some consideration in creation cost, some consideration in gap funding will go a long way in making our country even stronger, because the healthier we are, the less manpower days are lost, and the less loss there is to the nation.
Absolutely. I think that is also a very valid point, because whenever we talk about APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients and all that, many a times we always, like you very well said it, that many a times it's like kahin pe US, Europe, there it will first come into place, then we'll pay some royalty and yahan pe hum turant fatafat start karenge. But being indigenously built is comparatively lower. Absolutely agreed.
We have to incentivize research.
True. Absolutely. I think that was an amazing insight from you. And one last point, because there are so many people on our channel, and some might be even from the medical background as well. So one small guru mantra that you would want to give to our audience about how they can build their career in this sector that you put into.
Basically, I'll tell you, we became doctors to practice clean medicine. That also means that your knowledge must keep improving on a daily basis. If you want to give the best of yourself or justify yourself to your profession, then like we live in Vedanta, the dictum is, if you are not better today than yesterday, then you wasted 24 hours.
True.
So if you live by that, and that's what I would like to share, I share it with all my doctors here. I learned it many years ago from my guru. And I'll tell you, it will hold India in a great stead for our own people and for people of the world, because we can be the health providers of the world.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Dr. Trehan. And it was a really insightful session. I'm sure all the viewers will get to learn a lot from today's session. Thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you. I enjoyed.
Thanks a lot. And here we are with our next guest for the day, who is the MD and CEO of Tata Housing and Realty. And he's responsible for all the strategic and tactical implementation of his business in India. When I talk about him, typically when I say about a person who is from the realty space and having such a rich experience, many people feel that ye ek hi stereotypes mein ye ek banda ho sakta hai. But if I tell you that he's a cricketer, he's a chess lover, he's a biker, and sir, if I'm not mistaken, whatever I read about you on the internet, it also mentions about something related to jewelry designing as a hobby. If that information is correct. Wow.
Yes, it is correct.
This is like a complete all-rounder package. So we are really blessed to have such a multi-talented person on our channel. So a very, very warm welcome, sir. Thanks for taking out time. I know I'm bothering you. You are on commute, I know that, but you've been really kind enough to even give your time, even though you're commuting right now. Thanks a lot.
No, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Perfect. So without wasting a lot of time, let me just jump into the questions. If I talk about yesterday's budget, of course, a lot of thrust was given on capex. But if I'm talking about your sector, specific about real estate, there was one point which was mentioned about affordable housing, right? This entire sector, real estate, I think has gone through a lot of pain in the last few years, which started with something like an introduction of GST, then followed by maybe demonetization, then it was RERA, so many things back to back, which was, somewhere somewhere hampering the sector is what I believe. And the era that this sector has seen, which, maybe I can say 2000 to 2010 decade, which gave stupendous returns to those who had invested in real estate, vis-a-vis this decade, 11 to 20, this has not been really a good one for real estate. So what do you think, with affordable housing being introduced in this budget, specific point being talked about that, do you feel that it can give a small boost, or you believe that a little bit more should have been talked about the sector, some more incentives were required for this sector to boost?
First of all, I believe when the industry talks about the real estate sector, it is important to understand that the real estate sector is residential, commercial,
true,
shopping center, warehousing, logistics, now data centers, industrial. And let me also tell you that when you spoke about stress in the sector, it was the residential sector which was going through stress for almost a decade.
True.
And but all the other real estate segments were doing extremely well. So office sector in 2019 did 42 million square feet of net absorption in India. Highest ever in the history of India.
Wow.
Warehousing logistics is growing 19 to 20 million square feet every year. Because after GST, the quality of warehousing, which was severely lacking, started coming up, and therefore now companies are going for it. You also know that the e-commerce growth has added fuel to the logistics sector.
Absolutely.
So I think, and then of course, industrial data center is a new segment because of Government of India's policy on data privacy laws, that you have to keep the data of Indian citizen within the boundaries of the country. So now data centers have to be set up. There is no choice.
Absolutely.
So there are all growth positive. Now, when the government came to power, the government decided to focus on affordable, because that's what the masses need. That is where the biggest gap is.
True.
What was happening was middle segment and luxury segment were doing well, but nobody was paying attention to the needs of the poor. So government has done a splendid job in diverting the attention of the real estate developers toward affordable housing. And I think they have done, if I'm not mistaken, 53 lakh unit under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana already. And to do 80 lakh unit in this year, as per the finance minister's statement in the budget, they have allocated close to 48,000 crore to go into this segment. So it is a splendid initiative. Whether it will 100% lead to meeting our target, but any commitment will further bridge the gap, in my opinion. So that is definitely good. However, like I said, real estate is not about only affordable homes. So does it mean if the government has not announced anything about office, shopping centers, that they are in pink of health and there is no need? The answer is no. In fact, because of work from home, the demand for office space has come down from 49 million in 2019 to 25 million.
Ooh. Wow.
In fact, a lot of people view this positively because they thought during pandemic it will be zero. But still, while the companies had 3% population in the office that they were coming to office in 2020, knowing that they will not be needing office for another year, they still took 25 million square feet.
True.
In 2021, the attendance in the office went up, but they still took 25 million square feet office. So it is from a extreme end of pandemic fear factor, they've done well, but they are suffering.
True.
The rentals are under pressure. Leasings have stopped or they've slowed down. In this case, the leasing of B-grade buildings, buildings which are not good quality, not well managed, they are the ones who are suffering.
Correct.
And the government, unfortunately, has either, because according to them, real estate is only affordable homes. And therefore, it is important for me to use your channel to voice that.
True.
Second, shopping centers. Do you think shopping centers are doing extremely well?
Not
because for 2 years they were locked with shopping center. All the owners of shopping center are paying a loan that they have taken on the construction to the bank, while there is no sale, there is no rent. Because in shopping center, there is a revenue share mechanism.
Absolutely.
It's only when the retailer makes money that they give rent.
True.
So the pain is very high. So my disappointment from this budget is that the real estate sector has not been looked at holistically. And there is an urgent need for the government to think about it, because after all, real estate sector is one of the largest job creator in the country.
Absolutely.
Which the government has acknowledged in the budget also.
Yeah. So I think a very important point, sir, that you mentioned right now is that, for any person, a commoner, I think the moment I talk about real estate, the first thing comes to their mind is about, a normal housing. But I think you very well pointed out that it's not only housing, but it has also got to do with commercial spaces, got to do with a lot of shopping malls. Very rightly pointed out, data centers will also now be under the ambit of the same housing and infra category. So with this said and done, I take your point that, yes, there should have been much more which could have been talked about in the budget about these areas as well. So moving ahead with the next question, I'm sure when you went through the budget, you yourself might have noted that there are so many sectors which were put into the limelight, be it infrastructure or be it education, be it MSMEs, wherein job creation was given a special focus. Our finance minister was talking about upskilling, reskilling. She was talking about maybe India being looked at a China +1 model. So many things were being talked about in yesterday's budget. If I were to ask you which were the top 2 to 3 sectors, or which are your top 2 3 sectors which you believe can benefit from this budget story and can have a good impact over the next few years? So you're not audible. I guess it has gone on mute.
I believe the travel and tourism and hospitality industry has suffered the most, and they will bounce back with much more vigor. And the government's package in the budget will also assist.
Absolutely.
But I think the normal, organic, and the desire by a citizen to go out and enjoy life, because pandemic, everybody realized life ka pata nahi kab band ho jayegi batti. Let's enjoy. So I think this will lead to a substantial growth to the sector. I believe the budget also mentioned about reforms and new legislation of SEZ. I think that will also help developers and IT companies as far as ease of doing business is concerned.
Absolutely.
I think pharmaceutical sector, whether government gives any support or not, will grow exponentially thanks to pandemic. And of course, the king of all the sector will be all those who are related directly, indirectly linked to infrastructure development.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In addition to this, there are many initiatives, whether it's defense, for example. So I genuinely see, whether defense or data center, I genuinely see that the new opportunities, the new startups, the listing of new startup companies, the digital economy, the transition and transformation of old school business, which will be now technology enabled, will create maximum opportunity for the IT sector.
Absolutely.
Now, and fortunately, now this is very different. This is a very important point you must pay attention to. You see, India has so far built businesses which are catering to Indian economy. Okay. IT is one of the few sectors where India has global dominance.
True.
So when an opportunity comes in US, in UK, in France, in Poland, in Spain, it has a direct impact on job creation in India.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that will be the lead sector. Thanks to digitization, disruption by technology, and also let's appreciate that during pandemic, the acceleration of learning on technology and how to manage business remotely has been abundantly established.
True.
Right? So I think the people are now going to make their annual budget with twice as much expenditure on the IT than they did in the past.
Quite possible. So I think that was really insightful about you talking about various sectors which can get benefited out of the budget announcements. Plus, he also talked about the overall way how these sectors can perform in the coming 10 years as well. Before we sign off, sir, any final word of wisdom for those who are wanting to pursue their career in the real estate sector, because you have such a rich experience in this sector? All those who are wanting to come into this field, any basic checklists that they must have, any specific skill sets that they must develop so that they have a better employment or better employability in this sector?
At Tata Housing and Tata Realty, we believe we have to do responsible real estate. Responsible real estate means we need to be sensitive towards the environment, sensitive towards our people, whether our employees, whether vendors' employees, whether tenants coming to our office park, whether residents staying in our residential buildings, whether technology coming into our data centers. We need to be sensitive. So it is not customer centricity, but customer obsession. So for all the young lads out there, if they really want to excel, they can choose any career in any sector. But if they have conviction and knowledge about how they can play an important role in digital space, in sustainability space, being sensitive, they can drive maximum performance from themselves, irrespective of any sector. When it comes to real estate, the opportunity is going multiple folds, because no $2 trillion economy or $3 trillion economy will become 5 or 6 unless the real estate contributes to it.
Absolutely.
So, in my opinion, whatever I've done in last 30 years in real estate, people like you, if you were to take up real estate, you will achieve in 5 years, next 10 to 20 years, for 2 reasons. One, the valuation of real estate is going up. So, अगर मैंने 10,000 करोड़ का काम किया है, तो you will do 1 lakh crore work. So the scale is just huge.
True.
But so you need to kind of make sure that you excel in whatever role and responsibility that you take. Opportunities are humongous.
Amazing. So thanks a lot for such an amazing insight. I'm sure all those viewers who are wanting to enter into this space have taken this very well and have taken certain notes so that you can ease in through this field. Thanks a lot once again, sir, for taking out time.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh my God, I hope you loved this entire power-packed, knowledge-packed video of almost 2 hours, 15 minutes or whatever it is. And I'm sure you loved the entire video. Please let me know your views in the comment section. As in, it will give me a feedback if we should have more of such sessions or not. In fact, I believe that we can have few more experts on our channel who talk about industry-specific inputs as well. So if you feel that, yes, we should be doing more of such stuff, let me know. I'll be more than happy to request these guest speakers to talk about their specific sectors or specific companies. So till then, take care, Jai Hind, and bye-bye.